Okay, Harry, you talked earlier about your partnerships with, you like to keep yourself surrounded by clever people. It does seem that some of the people that you've been very successful with would be unlikely people for you to sort of get on with. So Tony Bloom and Paul Barber would appear to be sort of the polar opposite of you, personality-wise at least. How do you think these things have worked?
Yeah, well, Tony, I met him at the. Well, I met him before in betting shops in Brighton, and he's a little punter, so we're always going to get on with punters, and you know, he always had so much sort of character about him and so much sort of spunk, for want of a better word, that he was always a little likeable fella anyway. So we are a bit different. He's a bit quieter than me, but we both learnt a lot from each other, and in a lot of good ways. So that was pretty good, really. And you know, obviously, I played a part in the start of what become Star Lizard and everything, which is everyone gets a little bit of the cake. It's a fine operation. I'd say on a personal level, I'd say I don't see that much difference between me and Barber. We're different in I suppose we are different in a lot of ways, but you know, I really liked Paul Barber, and I miss Paul Barber, and you know, I spoke to him the other day, funny enough, and we're going to have a bit of lunch in Taunton next time there's a meeting in Taunton. But I'd say when all this happened with the horses, there was a bad taste with everyone was getting, you know, we'll come to that later, but it was a shame because he was the one thing I missed. And I got on well with Paul's wife as well, Marianne, so you know, I really, that was a big part of the, you know, whenever I used to go down to St Nicholas to see the horses, I'd stay the night with Paul and Marianne. And Marianne's breakfast was, I think, you know, was legendary. So, you know, I didn't miss the racing or the owning of horses that much, really. They were mum's horses, but I did miss the people. Same with the sales. I find horse people infectious. I find them, you know, I really found a lot of the people at the sales company, you know, quite infectious. I enjoyed it, and you know, I enjoyed Mick Channing's company, and I enjoyed, you know, I had a lot of good times. You know, I think that was part of the attraction of it all, really, and you know, it was good fun.
Yeah, when I was trying to persuade you for ages and ages to do this, you said you wanted it to be positive. But we can't really talk without mentioning the BHA and the brief warning off. I mean, first of all, it appears they were after you. So why do you think that was?
Well, it's the biggest mystery in my life. You know, you have to ask Paul Roy that. I mean, I did have ambitions at the time. I was working to get involved with the Irish Tote, and he was involved with the bid for the English Tote. But really, I don't know. As you know, I know you spoke to Mark Phillips, so you know the BHA lost so many good people. There was so many crooked old Bill doing things. I mean, it was just such a heavy thing. But you take on a powerful, you know, as Oliver Coddington said to me, he left. He was a real top man that worked for the BHA, and he left over it. And he said, if you take on the king, you know, make sure you don't miss. And I arguably missed, but boy, I took him on with everything I've got. And you know, there was a lot of things that went on that people didn't know about and we didn't read and write about. But I don't think the book would have happened if I told Neil Harmer what happened, and because I didn't know why I didn't want to write the book, because at the time I was Billy Potless and my head was scrambled after Coventry. I couldn't even get out of bed in the morning, and people were saying, write a book. I said, leave me out. But Neil Hartman did a very clever thing. He went to see Philip Davis, the MP, who's a good man, and William Haggis introduced me to him, funnily enough, with regard to the Tote. I was always, this is what I'm so pleased with what Alec Frost is trying to do. I was trying to do it myself 10 years ago. Jamie Hart, who I'm now working with, was trying to do it, you know, he did it at school, university dissertation, whatever it's called, greyhound racing, low margin model. So that was how I met Philip Davis 10 years ago. But Neil Harmon very cleverly went to see Philip Davis without me knowing about it and said, is this all true? La-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da. And Philip Davis said, oh yeah. And that was it. And Neil said, yeah, I want to write this book. But now that, you know, you spoke to Mark Phillips, so you don't need to know no more. But another thing Oliver Compton just said was, he said, Harry, he said, I know you're on a crusade, he said. He said, people who are on a crusade, he said, tend to get killed. And he was almost right with that. At times I wondered why they didn't finish me off, but no, to find out 3 or 4 years later that Alex Frost is trying to run a low margin tote on the Nottingham Greyhound Derby and then I heard Jamie Hart was involved in it, and now the young kid who does all the maths and the code. You talk about being surrounded by shrewd people. These are the shrewdest people I know, and I really believe that we can. It's so important for racing. It's so important for gambling, especially Irish racing. They need, they just need a massive. They need a 10% tote in the pubs, in the hotels, handheld machines. Money goes directly to the government and to racing itself. Cut out the Paddy Powers. You got Stuart Kenny saying that, I shouldn't have done it, I've got a conscience and all that. Leave us out with Paddy Power. Don't have the Paddy Powers and the Ladbrokes in the car parks, outside the Black Cows, outside the Horse and Jockey. Have a handheld monitor inside the pub. Everyone's telling us it's going to be a cashless society. Get out your red credit card, 2 roast dinners, a tenner on the jackpot, 4 quid on trap 2, and 3 pints of Guinness. It's the future. And if you cut out the middleman, Denise Coates paying herself 40 million a year and won't spend 30 quid on shoes. Paying Ray Winston 13 million to do adverts and talk about something he knows nothing about. Cut all that out. Let's give it back to racing. 6.6% per horse now. It was 20% 18 months ago. And not only that, I predicted it. Now the landscape's changed. Now, no rebaters get more than the man in the street, because the man in the street gets plus 10% and they get 11. And they got far about with all that code and stuff, whereas you can just do it on your tote, press the buttons, wait till the last minute. And that's where that's the intrigue of gambling for me. It's about winning. It's about winning. It's when I go to bed at night, I'm always thinking about the edge. Where is the edge? I know it sounds silly, like there's all that big racing Saturday. We done our money on most things Saturday, but I knew there was a little £2 grand rollover in Ireland, and I knew there was only going to be about another 300, 400 quid go in it. And where the best value is, all my football was from Tommy Bradley. Tommy Bradley was a bookmaker in the same shipyards in Govan and Alex Ferguson, and Tommy Bradley was known as the best football judge in Britain for 30 years. I worked with him for 30 years, and when Tony Bloom started the algorithms, he was the one he come to. He said, Harry, that's why Tony come to me. He obviously knew I was bloody good, but he knew I had Tommy. Tony Bloom knew that I brought Tommy with me, so he had his 3 anchors for his thing. And Tommy Bradley could have £10,000 on Celtic at 11 or 10. £10,000 at 11 or 10, because he makes them 8 to 11. But if he managed to get 4 to 1, about a 6 to 4 chance in one of them machines and have 30 quid on, that's much more. That means 10 times more to win. Those little fish, those little swisher feet, whatever it is, little fish are sweet for Tommy Bradley. That's how, when you have to win, and we at the moment we all have to win at the moment. That's where your priority lies, where you know you've got the biggest edge. It might only be, I laid out on the Sunday, I laid out 134 quid. No, I laid out 149 quid and got back 834. But I knew when I put the 100 quid on, I knew it was worth nearly double that. And how often do you feel that when you have a bet? Hardly ever. So there's always little places, but you want to be in the right place at the right time. And the great thing about the Tote is that they're already partners with Sweden. So we're going to be Hong Kong. In Hong Kong now, the other day I got told to back a horse in Hong Kong. 16 to 1 chance. I had to have a little bit on it, it got beat. But I had to be on, because if you miss a 16 to 1 winner, you win the nut house. But you can't get on. So I rushed onto my Tote account, had 150 quid on that. But not only that, in Hong Kong, you get Hong Kong price plus 10%. Everything's plus 10%. I feel like it's like Betfair again now. I should be getting paid as a spokesman. But you have to tell the punters where the value is. And the good thing about Betfair now is you have got the capacity, everyone's got the capacity to bet for 2 pence. And the difference that makes, Simon, the difference it makes, if you're a taxi driver and you put, not taxi driver, anyone, if you're, whatever you do and you're not full-time punter and you want to punt, if you put your £100 in Betfair on a Friday night to bet on all the sport over the weekend, remember, betting smaller is always easier than betting big. So you've got an advantage over everyone else. Even the Lizards, the Benhams, all the geniuses, Your advantage is you're betting small, but you must press that button that makes you 2%. Forget about the special offers and all this and all that and playing at 5%. You have to find the 2% button, and you always have to play at 2%, because if you're betting small and you're playing 2%, it's easy to win. If you're playing with the special offers and getting 5%, you're 1,000,000 to 1 to win over a period of time. That's just simple maths. But the fact is, if you're asking where you're playing now, you've got to play where the value is. And we all have a rollover.
That's interesting. You mentioned the total. Obviously, you're very keen on it because you're sorting it all out. But that would have been a nightmare for you if the dogs had all been a tote back in your heyday?
Oh, it would have been. I mean, this is the whole thing. I can't believe it. It doesn't seem right advocating the tote so much, because previously everyone was brought up with the same thing. You can't bet on the tote because it's. But you know, to be fair, what's happened? I don't think it might have COVID, whatever, cutting Gelco's throat with the rebate. I don't know, but that's what's happened. And the fact of the matter is, suddenly it's a massive option for punters. And the thing is, the benefits aside, it are much better. And that's why, I wouldn't. I feel afterwards when I plug Betfair that you shouldn't be plugging Betfair and that. But the fact of the matter is, there's world pools now. Every race that last, where they have world pool days, 20 days a year, I see it advertised, but punters aren't talking about it enough. The maximum percentage was 103. There was 3 races that were over broke. So if you've got a Tote account, a Betfair account, you're betting to 0. And that's without even mentioning the swingers. All the Hong Kong players are playing massive on the swingers. This is what I've been telling punters for 2 years. If people said to me, what would you, and I'll tell it now. If someone said, what would you do now? I'd say I'd concentrate on swingers. You have to pick any 2 of the first 3. But as it stands, until the British pool takes off, it's going to be swamped with these Hong Kong swingers money. I guarantee you now, 2 years ago, Gelco must have thought the big syndicates were getting it all. But now it's a level playing field. All the small punters should be doing it. Look for strong finishes. That's what I've been doing. Yeah. On the World Pool days, I look for strong finishes and bigger price and put them in swingers, because that's where there's people you ask me about finding an edge. That's where there's most edges at the moment, I suppose. That's why I'm singing their praises so much. But the fact of the matter is that even when they level out, the fact of the matter is the margin's there to make it playable.
So do you think the fact that nobody can get a bet anymore is going to play into the favour of your tote idea, because punters will go there? I think the bookmakers are actually cutting their own throats by doing that.
I honestly think at Cheltenham this year it'll be a revelation. If anyone wants to lay me evens, I will take evens now, that the tote turns over 3 times more money on the win pools at Cheltenham this year than it did last year. 3 times more money. Because you know why? In the last 2 weeks, it's taken, because the Britbet are on course, so the tote were actually on course. It took Jamie Hart a couple of years, I think, to talk on course into going SP guaranteed. So now if you have a bet with the tote now, you get paid SP or the tote price plus 10%. It averages out at 6% per horse. But they couldn't get it to happen on course. 2 weeks ago, I think, they've done it on course. So now on course at Newton Abbot, down the road, any race course in Britain, if you bet on the tote, 50 quid, 100 quid, 1,000 quid, you get paid SP, tote or tote play. So therefore, in the last 2 weeks already, they have taken double the normal big bet size. Well, I say, Cheltenham next year, their takeover will treble on the win pool, because you'll have people in queues everywhere. There's tote windows. In the past, they thought, how can I bet on the tote? It's 119%. It's going to be worse than SP. And now, the whole crowd, especially if I keep doing this, I'll be ringing up Alice asking for a check after this. But the fact of the matter is, if you're there in a queue getting a burger, there's a tote window, and you want £100 and a 9 to 2 chance, you're 7 on to get better than if you run around. Because then you've got to rush to the bookies, dive through, you know what I mean? And so I think it's going to be, honestly, hand on my heart, I think it's going to be a revelation.